Okay, shall we start the meeting? It's 7 o'clock and this is a joint city council and planning commission work session. So call to order and a roll call.
Aye. Let's see, I have to look at names.
That's okay. That works.
Chair Seeger,
Present.
Joanne Winford,
Here.
Todd Bouchard is,
Excuse me.
and Dave Lips,
I'm here.
and Mayor Kathy Fallon,
Here.
City Councilor Tammy Farrell,
Here.
City Councilor, oh, I forgot Kayla, and Kayla Keller,
Here.
City Councilor Eric Keller,
Here.
City Councilor Sean Crompton,
Excuse.
and City Councilor Butch Miller,
Here.
City Councilor Pete Happy,
Excuse.
City Councilor Denise Emily Baker.
Here.
Did I get everybody? Yes,
I believe so.
All righty. Thank you. All right, Jordan.
So I put a very generic agenda together. I know most of you have lived here for a while, but a lot of new between this planning commission and council. And how you guys want to structure this, just quick introductions, maybe how long you've lived in the city, the mayor, unless you had a different idea. But I know you appointed them, but do you know them? I guess is the question. And then after that, we can roll into a review of ordinance 307, which governs the planning commission. Make sure everybody understands the roles and responsibilities, and interaction between council and the planning commission. And then if we would like, we can jump further into the strategic plan that was just passed by city council.
Okay. And question for you, Jordan, do we have new people on this meeting that didn't attend the planning meeting online?
Yes, that just ended.
Yeah, the planning, are there new people on this meeting that were not on the planning meeting?
Butch and Eric, just councilors.
Just council.
Yeah, there's at the moment, no public.
Okay, because I was
And
gonna say,
more virtual.
we've gone through every one in the introductions, but we can do it again certainly, since
However you guys want to process, yeah.
we used to call it like the 30-second commercial. Kathy, you wanna? I know. Eric and Butch were on, so.
Okay, Kathy Woosley, city recorder, planning commission secretary, and then I worked at City Hall for 29 years, I've lived here since 1968. Have a great site here, so I guess I'll lay the rest.
You're not leaving. All right.
Jordan Bennett, city administrator, been here since October of last year. I think I've met all of you in one form or another before.
All right.
Joanne Wittenberg, and I've been here since 1962, and I'm never leaving.
Yeah.
Because we've got a mausoleum finally.
You're here forever too. All right.
So Bernard Seeger, Planning Commission Chair now, just this evening that started. Grew up in Texas, but I've been in Oregon since 2007. And love it to, just to pieces here. And, we're all talking about our graves and stuff. I want either a green burial or I'm going to science, one of those two. But it's gonna be a very simple experience and then life goes on.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Interesting twist to our introduction.
All three of us have mentioned that.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Denise Emily Baker, I've lived here 3.5, almost 4 years. I'm born and raised in Oregon and lived up and down the West Coast from LA to Canada and Australia and Hong Kong and Costa Rica, and came back and spent time in city government in Milwaukee, city of Milwaukee, Oregon, union board, regional board for the education union as well. And then for Welch's, Oregon, on their planning, which is not even incorporated. So I'm excited about this and affiliating our strategic plan with our planning and possibly a nonprofit small business group with Main Street to all help
Main Street,
move together, yeah.
All right.
Oh, and my burial plan. I too hope to be, donate my body to science. My mom did that and it she was so strict on making sure we did it and they were very kind and polite and we even got ashes at the end for all three.
Yeah. Good way to go.
Go ahead.
I know, it's a lot of pressure. So Michaela Keller, lived in Cascade Locks, I think for almost 8 years. Mom of 2 littles, PTO president, my union president for, the Hood River County. I work in the planning department, for Hood River County and am excited to be part of the planning commission here.
All right, so we go to Councilman Miller.
I've lived in Cascade Locks for 7 years. Came here when I retired, been on city council for 3 years. My family has been in Cascade Locks since 1942. That's it.
All right. Dave?
Yeah,
Most of you guys know me. I think actually all of you guys know me. I moved to Cascade, a little bit of me. I moved to Cascade Locks in 2013, 10 years ago. And my wife moved with me. She grew up on the Oregon coast. We have a couple of children, actually more than a couple. We have 3 now. Around causing havoc. And yeah, we started the brewery in town and we've been working hard to keep our business going and active and lively for years. And yeah, we yeah, and I think this town is the best town in the world, and I love our community, and I love everything in our town. So yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Farrell?
Oh, we're gonna go to Eric, okay. Okay, yeah, my family moved here in the summer of '95. My son Sean graduated from the high school when we had high school. And I'm from Mosers, where we came from before here. Been on council for 3 years. Will be buried next to my husband, and that's it.
All right. Councilmember Keller?
Lots of my wife. We moved in 2015. I work at the high school, been on council for 1 year, and that's about it.
All right, thank you. I'm Mayor Fallon. I purchased my home out here in 2018. I'll just get this out of the way. To answer your about burial plots, if you want green burial or donate, I can hook you up. I'm in healthcare, and so I have lots of contacts for that. I know how it's done and who you can talk to. I enjoy it. I raised my family in Damascus, Boring area, so I'm used to being in a rural area. I was born in Portland, but every waking moment was spent at my grandparents' property out on Sunnyside when there wasn't a bunch of houses. Or I remember when they said, my grandma said there was gonna be a mall there someday. That would be Clackamas Town Center. So that kind of dates me. But I absolutely love Cascade Locks. I'm very passionate about it. I help seniors and families. That's what I do for a living. And I've had an extensive, this is my first go around in government. I did city council for 2 years and then now mayor this last year. I've served on several boards. I'm used to that. Government, whole new ballgame, still learning, but I'm doing okay. Very passionate about search and rescue. I raise a lot of funds for them every year, and my skills, that's my skill set. Don't ask me to get in the woods and find you, but I can raise money to help buy equipment, so that's what I do. Served with the Alzheimer's Association, many different nonprofit boards, so I'm a big fan of nonprofits and all of the Canoe Club and all the organizations here. So, and that's me in a nutshell. All right. We've been through introductions, so review of ordinance number 307, discuss roles and responsibilities. Wanna, I didn't put my glasses.
Yeah, I didn't really have a detailed breakout of how to go about this. I just figured the first step is to make sure everybody has the same understanding of what the goals of the planning commission are, the goals of what they're supposed to do. So there aren't any expectations that don't match, if that makes sense. So council's expecting the planning commission to do something they didn't realize they were supposed to do. So I mean, I guess if there are any questions, I guess first step is what is council expecting of the planning commission, I guess would be my question on how to approach that.
Do you
Well,
wanna,
Go ahead.
do you wanna read this, or for individuals that don't have this in front of them, would that be
I
helpful?
can, I mean, it should have been, you sent it electronic, didn't you? Packet?
I don't know if I sent it to the electronic or told them it was on the website. I think I sent it to them, but I can't remember.
Okay.
Where,
For
where
those-
on the website is it?
It's on the website under, agendas and minutes, city council, actually, I think I put it in city council and planning commission section.
I didn't see it under the planning commission one, but let me look under the,
For those of you online, would it be helpful to have Jordan read it? It's not too terribly long.
I would like to hear it aloud as well, it would be nice, thank you.
Okay, ordinance 307, an ordinance continuing a planning commission for the city of Cascade Locks, prescribing its duties and replacing ordinance number 35. The city of Cascade Locks, Hood River, Oregon ordains, section 1, continuation of planning commission. There is continued a city planning commission referred to in this ordinance as commission for the city of Cascade Locks. Section 2, powers and duties of commission, except as otherwise provided by the city council, the commission may, 1, recommend and make suggestions to the council and other public authorities concerning the layout, widening, extending, parking, and locating of public thoroughfares, parking of vehicles, relief of traffic congestion, betterment of housing and sanitation conditions, and establishment of districts for limiting the use, height, area, bulk, and other characteristics of buildings and structures related to land development. 2, recommend to the council and other public authorities plans for regulating the future growth, development, and beautification of the city in respect to its public and private building and works, streets, parks, grounds, and vacant lots, and plans consistent with future growth and development of the city in order to secure to the city and its inhabitants sanitation, proper service of all public utilities, transportation facilities, and telecommunications utilities, including appropriate public incentives for overall energy conservation and harbor, shipping, and transportation facilities. 3, recommend to council and other public authorities plans for promotion, development, and regulation of industrial and economic needs for the community in respect to private and public enterprises engaged in industrial pursuits. 4, encourage industrial settlement within the city. 5, make an economic survey of present and potential possibilities of the city with a view to ascertaining its industrial needs. 6, study needs of existing local industries with a view to strengthening and developing local industries and stabilizing employment conditions. 7, do and perform all other acts and things necessary or proper to carry out the provisions of this ordinance. 8, study and propose in general such measures as may be advisable for the promotion of public interest, health, safety, comfort, convenience, and welfare of the city and the area 6 miles adjacent. 9, make recommendations to the council for the adoption of a comprehensive plan for the city or any part or element thereof. The official comprehensive plan shall be effective only after its formal adoption by the council. 10, recommend to council ordinances intending to carry out the purposes, principles, and proposals expressed in this comprehensive plan. 11, advise and cooperate with other planning agencies within the state and upon request or on its own initiative, furnish advice or reports to any city, county officer or department on any problem comprehended in city planning. 12, promote public interest in and understanding of the comprehensive plan and of planning a zone in general. 13, make recommendations and an annual report on January 1 of each year to the council concerning the operations of the commission and of the status of planning and zoning within its jurisdiction. 14, make recommendations to the council with regard to orderly development of territory within the city. 15, perform all other acts and things necessary or proper to carry out the provisions of ORS 227.1.0102 227.180 and other duties as may be prescribed by ordinance or order of the council. Section 3, membership. 1, the commission shall consist of 5 voting members, each of whom shall be a resident of the city and appointed by the mayor. 2, the mayor may designate advisory non-voting members to provide technical assistance to voting members. 3, a term of office of commission shall be 4 years, amended by ordinance number 327 passed February 10th, 1997. The term of office shall commence on January 1 and expire on December 31. 4, vacancies shall be filled by mayor appointment for the remainder of the unexpired term of the predecessor in office. 5, a member may be removed by the mayor during his or her term for misconduct or non-performance of duty after a public hearing before the council. 6, members shall serve without compensation other than reimbursement for duly authorized expenses. 7, no 2 or more voting members of the commission shall have the same occupation. However, business persons engaging in different kinds of business shall not be prevented by this subsection from serving, and being retired shall not be considered an occupation within the meaning of this subsection. Section 4, general procedures. 1.
Jordan, can I interrupt you to do?
Yes.
Could we maybe discuss what you've already read?
Sure.
Well,
Yes.
Let's go through it and then when we go back, I've been making, notes.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
read it out.
right.
Okay.
Hold on, roll.
Keep rolling.
Finish. I don't want to stop your roll. Section 4, general procedures. 1, the commission shall adopt rules and procedures for the transaction of business and shall keep a record of its resolutions, transactions, findings, recommendations, and determinations, which record shall be a public record. 2, the planning consultant shall provide staff services and recommendations and determinations. 3, the commission shall select from its voting membership a chairperson and vice chairperson to serve for 1-year terms, amended by ordinance number 327 passed February 10th, 1997. 4, any discussion other than one made at a public hearing of the commission that concerns a specific case, scheduled or likely to come before the commission, and that is between a voting member and an applicant's representative, or any other person with a direct interest in the matter, shall be made known, and the substance of the discussion entered into the record by the member at the beginning of the commission's public hearing on the case. 5, a member of the commission shall not participate in any commission proceeding or action in which any of the flowing has a direct or substantial financial interest. The member or the spouse, brother, sister, child, parent, father-in-law, mother-in-law of the member, any business in which the member is then serving on or has served within the previous 2 years, or any business with which the member is negotiating for or has an arrangement or understanding concerning prospective partnerships or employment. Any actual or potential interest shall be disclosed at the meeting of the commission where the action is being taken. 6, the commission shall complete its action on all applications and requests coming before it under the zoning and subdivision ordinances, building codes, and master road plan within the period of time specified, unless a shorter time is provided by order or ordinance. Section 5, repeal. Ordinance number 35 is repealed. The repeal shall not invalidate any action taken by the commission under ordinance number 35 and should be considered a continuation of the ordinance. Members appointed and presently serving under the terms of the ordinance shall continue to serve their present terms of office, passed by council and approved by the mayor on May 10th, 1993.
Okay, thank you, Jordan.
Thank
That was
you.
a lot. Joanne, you had, comments,
Well,
questions?
You know, the power and the duties of the commission, all about the industrial part. You know, typically, just, I mean, I know it's part of this ordinance, but typically the port usually does that work. You know, they're the ones that are trying to get businesses into town, blah, blah, blah. But it is part of the planning commission's purview, if they want to do that kind of thing. But, you know, typically the port's done that in the past.
And I would like to know, I was taking notes, like SMART goals, you know, strategic, measurable, accurate, what's the word, and timely, of seeing who to work with. And that, again, I wrote with the port. And I know we've had a joint session with them, and we're trying to do some more joint planning, as it were, and they're learning that they are under our purview. And so, so as we look at this, I suppose I'm used to, with this council, setting goals. We do have our strategic plan. I don't know if you all got a copy of this, or, boy, it would be great if they had the goals and recommendations, or the strategic plan recommendations, because I found some on here that are specific to planning. And I don't know if you're all aware that we got a $45,000 grant from the Oregon Department of Land Conservation and Development to create a downtown revitalization plan. And so, general scope of the work for the grant is development code audit, parking assessment, wayfinding, signage, action steps for moving forward. So we're entering a phase where the planning commission, not that you haven't been important, but it's very important. And I'm presuming that some of this grant will be to maybe get some staff support, if not a rare intern, because Kathy can't do it all. But this sounds to me like a planning grant, am I right, Jordan? Pretty much? So
Yes,
planning grant.
that's the bulk of it, yes.
And so, I don't know about you, but I'm excited about these powers and duties. And I know it sounds like a lot of work, but if we prioritize them based on our strategic plan and how we meet, who is the one we can even, like, let's say I saw one of them that said about county, like, there's something the mayor can do here, but, number 11, under section 2, it says cooperate with other planning agencies. I know that we have some counselors that are also members of, I think, Butch's with McKed. Is there a planning person that would be, obviously you're in Hood County, that would be a liaison, sharing advice or reports from county officers or departments, you know. So yay, we say yay. Number 11, somebody could volunteer to do that. But again, it might be more than this night to look at our goals and recommendations from the strategic plan that we just finished. Look at this. and
Yeah,
then
Hey,
yeah.
Denise, I think one thing, for me that even after this meeting, actually more evident after this meeting that we just had and the strategic plan and kind of how the planning commission operates and how the city council operates, I think there's two things happening here. I mean, we just met and went over the city code for how to allow or disallow food carts. We have a city planner who wasn't able to make the meeting. We talked about it. We talked about, hey, we should have some sort of provisions in this here and there. Go to find out, I go and look on the website, and there was a city ordinance that was written about it in 2019 for vendors. So there's a city code, what's allowed, and then there's this layer of city ordinances, which does and does not allow. They're almost like city codes. And if you go through a bunch of the city ordinances, there's ones about where medical marijuana facilities can be established. There's rules in the city ordinances about the vendor food cart, the temporary permit for tents in town. So, you know, it's like there's planning commission and then there's the city council and their ordinances. And I think there's a bunch of overlap inside that zone, and there's not a lot of communication between the planning commission and the city council. And then I think on top of that, we have a city planner that we pay a lot of money for. And the city planner, after us talking for, you know, he wasn't at the meeting for 20 minutes, and I bring up the ordinance of, hey, the city has an ordinance for all this stuff for the temporary vendor permits. He didn't know that. And it's like, well, it'd be great if our city planner would send us the information on the ordinance that we're meeting about at the meeting, so we don't talk about something that's already been put into policy by the city council. So there's a lot of this city ordinances that are being passed and pushed through. There's a city planning commission, and there's not a lot of like consistency in what is a single column of policy and doctrine. And it'd be great if we just had one simple place. So if you wanted to start a food cart or you know, any type of business in town, you could just go and say, this is the code and this is what I need to follow. Instead, there's a bunch of city ordinances that are layered on top of, I mean, there's a city ordinance for animals and where they can be in town. Is that under city planning? I mean, city planning says how you can set it, how far you can set a shed back from a property line. It's like, so now it's like, well, is a chicken coop? Where does a chicken coop, is it under an ordinance or is it on a city planning code? It'd be great if it was just in one spot. And those ordinances that are released just get adopted into the code. I don't know.
So Dave, I think you know, I keep hearing improved communication. I think that's part of what we're all trying to do. We're trying to get cohesive, better communication. And the codes and the ordinances, a lot of times they do, there's been a few where they kind of contradict each other. And so that's the whole point. We're trying to get this fixed and improve communication. I've been talking with the board, Jordan's been involved as well, is that they're trying to get, like a workshop, and it's for planning at council and everybody. And so it's a workshop on how do you work together, how communication best practices. And that's something that, I don't know if the report's on there or not, but they said that they're looking into, or they would pay for that guest speaker who's a planner. And so I said that might be a possibility. Cause I know reading this ordinance 307, and to go back to you, Joanne, your comments, cause you're asking on a couple of these things, cause a lot of these things like make an economic survey of present potential possibilities of the city with a view to ascertaining its industrial needs. I think maybe this ordinance, which is just a suggestion, that maybe the word industrial could be substituted with something else. So, because you're right, in the industrial park, that's generally, that is the port, but it, once again, that language in here doesn't really match. So I agree with you on that. So, and you've been on the planning for a long time, so how in the past have they done these, or have they followed these, or?
I don't think so, but we did do a housing study once. Do you remember that, Kathy? Because we wanted to know how many houses we had in town. So, and that's not in here.
Okay,
But, you know, I just don't wanna throw the baby out with the with the bathtub or the bath water. Because
Right.
you know what, there may be sometime the planning commission should look at the industrial site and look and see how much land is out there.
right.
Because it's a finite amount of land.
And it is within the city.
Yeah.
Which
and it's
falls
within
under
the city.
planning.
Right, so.
My understanding of, my context of what I have to reference is the county planning and how the county planning commission works. And my understanding is that, land use code is presented through the planning department, right? So the planner would present something, staff would present something, the planning that's that based on what the code allows for, what is desired on throughout the city. And then it's brought forward to the council. The idea isn't so much that we we decide what that base zoning is, right? So if we're talking about the industrial area, we say this is the industrial area, these are the things that we anticipate having there, this is what we wanna support there. If the port happens to own that land, they then are the ones who move forward with that.
Right.
They also have their own independent understanding or desire to work towards generating economic growth, that's part of what they do. But it's independent of that land and where that land lives and what that land is allowed to do, that's what the zoning code governs. And so, I guess with respect to that, that's my understanding, so I don't know if that's how it's been viewed before or not.
I mean, so I'm looking at the code right now and in the ordinances that are passed by the city. And one of them is ordinance 448, which is short-term rentals. And as soon as you open that code and you read it, it starts talking about where short-term rentals are allowed, what zones. It talks about all the uses and restrictions. So there's an ordinance that was passed, and it was passed by Tom Cramlett in 2018, but it didn't go through the planning commission. And when you read the code in that area, it looks like it should have gone through the planning commission. Like it reads like a piece of planning code, but it was a city ordinance that was passed. So then when you go back and you look at the city code then passed by the planning commission doesn't allow short-term rentals. So there's a contradiction that we have, which was on this side, you have the ordinance that was passed. On this side, you have the planning commission that's passed, and there's contradictory rules left and right. Any ordinance that's passed was never gone through the planning commission. So I think we really need to go through every single ordinance and clear up with the city code. Because like when you read them straight up, like it says in these zones, this is allowed. That's what this planning code says.
Bernard too.
Well, I think, Councilmember Miller had a response to, Mr. Liss's comment.
Councilmember Miller, did you have a comment?
Well, as I remember it, the STR came up to Mayor Cramlett's council, and it is up to council to make that decision. It's not planning code. You're going into zoning there, and it's up to council to make that decision. I mean, planning commission makes a suggestion to council, but it's council that makes the decision. So
are you saying that there's been a bunch of code amendments that have been suggested by planning commission that haven't been put in the city zoning code? So in 2018, when the short-term rental policy was released, it was a planning commission that submitted it to the city council. The city council approved it, but it then never got put back into the code.
no, I didn't say that. I said council makes the final decision. It's the recommendation from planning code. The STR amendment was 5% of total housing stock could be STRs. They had to be 250 feet apart. So that was the basis, because you don't want to allow too much of your housing stock to be given away, because we do have a housing problem.
So I read the code, and it's a great code, and I agree with everything in there. The problem is it's not in the zoning code. So when a short-term rental, if it were to be proposed to the city of Cascade Locks, there's actually a bunch of them that are in non-compliance because you might be a low density residential zone that doesn't, I think technically, isn't it only low density residential is allowed to have an Airbnb style short-term rental. So our code right now doesn't allow, there's a contradiction where the city ordinance says one thing, the city code says a different thing. So I'm asking, like, can we just have somebody that, like, we pay our city planner. Can he like look at both of these and submit we did this meeting an hour ago. He was supposed to submit a thing on the food cart thing. There was a food cart policy passed in 2019 that wasn't in the zoning code. So I'm just asking, like, how do we get the zoning code to line up with the city ordinances? And can we have like a staff member that just does that? You know, Kathy has a lot of stuff on her plate. She is not, you know, she does 99.9% more work than she has the time to do. So she's amazing. She does a lot of work, and I think we all can see that. But from the planning commission side, we keep on bringing up all these code amendments that have already gone through the city council and our ordinances.
Well, I think, Dave, we did with the grant, I think that's one of the things that they identified, there were some contradicting things that they don't match. They say two different things. And so that's part of what, has been discussed at city council, and that we're recognizing that, and like, we need to fix it. So,
That's what I was gonna say.
Councilmember Baker.
I thank you, Dave, for bringing that up, and I want to confirm with City Administrator Bennett that we can use the grant to hire someone to help do that, possibly. Our DLCD grant to help somebody look at our codes and make sure they're in alignment, just like we're doing a charter review now, we're doing a financial policy review. We know some of our documents are not as well written or matching. Is that part of what we can do with this grant?
The scope of that grant was just the CDC development code.
Okay, so in doing the development code, they'd have to look at our ordinances to make sure they match, right?
Not technically, but yes, it needs to be done.
Right,
I don't know if that's in the scope of the grant.
okay.
I don't believe it is.
Well, seems like they could do it correctly if it didn't matter ordinances, but, that's my thinking, I'll fight for that. And so I appreciate your saying what needs to be done, Dave, and that's when I look at this, I see it as an exciting list, and we say, what needs to be done? We show the port, or that if the city, just like we did high, low, medium priorities, if we thought something, make an economic survey of present potential possibilities of the city, ascertaining its industrial needs, we say to the port, hey, that's one of our planning goals, what do you got for us? Share your good news. And they may have it, and we may do more, and I default with planning humility to Michaela Keller, who's worked in this field, so she might know also how to better meet that goal. Study the needs of local industries with a view to strengthening, Port may have some info there too. We are hoping to start a nonprofit Main Street, which I learned there's technical support from Oregon Park and Rec for the cities to do some of these things. There are lots of grants, we made a different grant. It is time to apply for a rare intern again, and I'm told, and you might have more experience with this, Dave or Kathy, I'm not sure, somebody who was here at the time, that our rare interns did some planning work. The team from University of Oregon, who helped us with our strategic plan and helped Administrator Bennett procure this $45,000 grant, last year, told me that we could get a planning rare intern. And I made a proposal to city council and that we might think about it, but this, she said, you need to wait until the February deadline. So even though I shared with council last year about this, now would be the time,
Yeah, I'll just say first, Denise, let me cut you off and tell you, right, everybody right now, if the rare program did not exist in the state of Oregon, Thunder Island Brewing would not be in Cascade Locks. Rare representatives, interns from working for the port and the city of Cascade Locks brought us in. They, they worked with us and worked with the city council and the port commission at the time to get us into the community. They were well worth their the amount that we paid them. One of the city interns that we paid, or well, it's not an intern, it's a rare program. He's now the city administrator for a huge town, and he's an architect and zoning, planning, everything. These people go on to do great things, a lot bigger things than Cascade Locks, and they really want to affect our community and do a lot in the short time that they're there, and they are well worth their dollar amount. If you can get a rare intern, it is such a valuable resource. I would highly recommend it to the city council. We would not be here. Cascade Locks would not look the same right now when you drive down the street if there wasn't a rare intern.
I appreciate that, and that's one of the recommendations to council, to us, as to how to help with some of these things. So, does anybody else have, so my thinking is that we look at these, we each decide, okay, how can this be done with a group of volunteers? And what else is happening in the city, because obviously other folks are doing some of this. What do we need? Is it time to revisit our, and I don't mean to sound harsh, but it's the reality, is to revisit our contract with our planner? What is it we want from the planner? Do we, get bids? Just like with the tourism pay consultant, do we get bids from other planners? I don't know, y'all working with them. Is it, I think the port has a planner.
I think we're getting into the weeds a little bit, and, but good points,
Okay.
very good points. Bernard, you had your hand up?
Yeah, so I see this as two objectives. It sounds like one, there's an interest in kind of reviewing the powers and duties of the planning commission.
Correct.
And, kind of bring those to light and say, hey, these are some things that council wants planning commission to be moving the ball on. The other thing I see is maybe we tweak some of these things. And so to the second point, first, in response to the comments regarding all the industrial points, I kind of second Michaela's, comments there in that, yes, the port has a job of economic development, but at the end of the day, the city is the keeper of our well-being and future, and we would work with the port to advocate for what we want our city to look like, 10, 20, 50 years in the future.
Correct.
So, yeah, it doesn't, it doesn't reduce our role in having a say in how this city grows and changes and develops. And I just want to state that, and I think when they probably adopted this, we were a post, timber economy town, and we were really looking for our next, fire to light us up economically. And I think to a certain extent, we're still doing that. We have a lot of industrial land. So I would be hesitant to take that type of language out of our responsibility.
That wasn't recommended you take it out,
No.
it just was,
Just align with the board. Okay.
maybe add additional wording, or just, I think for the planning to review this, kind of what you said, to kind of bring it to light and maybe do some tweaking to make it more updated.
Okay.
And so, because there's all these, duties listed, but I know council hasn't seen it, or or if they haven't seen it, we just don't have knowledge of it. We may have done it, but we don't have knowledge.
Right.
So that's what we're trying to do, is take the planning, city council, everybody, so everyone has a clear understanding of what is planning, what do they do, how do they do it? Council, same thing, what are best practices to communicate to one another?
Right. And so if I could do two other things. So to that point on, reviewing this ordinance, I think what might have been helpful is to look at model planning commission duties and powers ordinances and see, what is the norm that's an established across cities, small towns in Oregon, and align ours with that, now, one thing I would like to add is training. Specifically training requirements for planning commission members.
I'm a big fan of training.
And, in my mind, when someone is appointed to the planning commission, they should have some homework, like one of them being, read the comprehensive plan and planning zoning, in general, because one of our duties is to promote the public interest in understanding the comprehensive plan. So you gotta start by learning that document, but I also think, because there's some legal requirements when you actually review, land use applications, there should be training in that as well. Typically, LOC has that. I really feel like this ordinance should say, if you wanna become a planning commissioner, you should do a few things, do some reading, and you should go to a training or two provided by LOC on how to be a good planning commission member. So I think that should be included, unless it's somewhere else that I'm not aware of.
They used to have a group that did great training, but they're no longer doing.
They don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
And I wanna say that membership, if you have a hearing, you're judge and jury. And you better not have talked to the, person bringing
the
whatever.
interested party, that's right.
Then it'll go to LCDC and look in Salem, and the city will pay out big bucks, because that's happened in the past, as Bernard and I know.
Yes.
Yes,
So it sounds like there needs to be some revision,
Yes.
is that what you're saying?
yes,
Okay.
and I agree with Denise about, rare. We've had tremendous rare. The other thing I think, look at Portland State and University of Oregon, if they have a student in the summertime that wants a job.
I'll get you in a second. You had your hand up. I did, so, there is planning commission training, and I don't know if it's Department of State Lands that does it or DLCD. I've attended it in my capacity as a planner in River County, and it's great, and I would love to do it again, and I would recommend tabling this conversation until everybody's had that.
Right.
So as to have a better understanding of what the role is, so that you can interpret this list of what your duties are with a lens of understanding what it means to do these things, because with respect to what it sounds like is already in the process, reviewing the entire comprehensive code is going to be a legislative amendment that will require all of these things to happen, and they're gonna happen organically through that. So I don't know if going through one by one and saying what you wanna do is as fruitful as potentially just waiting to be intentional about how to do this, and then working with the grant to figure out how to adjust the code and align it, like Dave said, so that there's, consistencies, and then you move forward with a fresh code and you have these things done.
And I am not a fan, it's not one of my goals to change an ordinance, cost money with a lawyer. It's part of our ordinances, part of our council procedures, I am a fan of interpreting it, getting the training. The chair can make a more comprehensive, or the committee, a more comprehensive, committee guide that we would approve and say, we want training, bring to city council, where's the money in the budget for the training, we want this, in order to tackle. Yes, there's a lot in here that may be eventually changed, but right now, with our limited budget, I'm not a fan of changing an ordinance that is, to me, leaves a lot of room for interpretation. But to work on, we still have work to do even before the grant gets here, we have work to do. So we have two goals, short-term goals, what are we doing with now planning? Do you want, it sounds like you want to write some specific things, we want training, we want for our committee to, here's a few things we're gonna look into. Certainly, we still haven't done, and I didn't know if tonight was the night, I don't think we have enough time to read everything, to do goal setting. City council is meant to give goals to the planning commission, and I think they're partly in here, because we just approved the strategic plan, these are the pages of next steps, but, so city council, we generally would share goals with the city administrator, and then he would come up with some that we all agree on, and then share them with you, and see if you don't like some of them, or do, and you would do the same thing. knowing the state of the city and your personal interpretation of what was in, you would say, hey, here's what we can do. Before, here's all the recommendations we ask for you, city, even the big brainstorming dream ones that cost money, you know, and, would love to have full-time planning staff, love to have intern, love to have, what is it you love, and how do we find the money to get there, and what do we do when we can't? To me, that's, I would rather not change the ordinance, but you as a committee interpret it so as it not to make you feel that you can't do it. And then, am I wrong? Anybody have comments on that? Or do you have things to add to that?
Well, I think, in, retrospect to, I'm gonna say Kelber, just, you made a good point. In order to tweak this or change it or anything, you have to have a full understanding, and to have training, it would make you much more, have a full understanding of it. So does that sound, I know the port was talking about, who was the gentleman they were talking about? Having one in March.
John Martin.
Yeah, John Morgan. And so it's a whole planning training session. And they haven't set a date yet, but it sounds like, it would be helpful to have a full understanding of duties and whatnot before we touch anything on this. I think tonight it's about, saying planning, council, we just want to communicate better. And that's what I got out of this meeting, the purpose of it. I was a city councilor 2 years before I became mayor last year. I never met with planning as a city councilor. So we never heard from planning, or anything. And so we just didn't know. So I'm excited that we're moving forward. Like we wanna partner, we want to do well. So, and we want to be well educated in those things, because we don't want to change things willy-nilly or take out industrial or keep it or not. I'm not saying that, but if there needs to be tweaks made, I think, Keller made a good point that it pays to have some good education on before anything's tweaked. Bernard?
So I concur with the training and kind of what you laid out there. I would also offer that, there should be a work plan for the planning commission
Correct.
on at least annual, I mean, maybe biannual basis, so we have our marching orders on what you want us to work on in the next 12, 24 months. And at the minimum, we should meet to do that, we hear from the community on things that are of planning concern from, citizens, and of course you do as well. So let's marry those two together with some professional planner, input. And then, you guys develop a plan and we can move forward on that. And then, as it says, we should do a report. As planning chair, typically that would be the city's planner and the chair sitting down, preparing a little
Right.
PowerPoint.
Right.
And you guys do basically an update on, you
Right.
gave us these marching orders, here's what we've accomplished in the last.
That's great.
And at the beginning, I couldn't really quite figure out how I wanted to word it, but in the recent past, the planning commission has been very reactive, only meeting when there is a reason to meet, like if something needed to be decided or there's a change happening. The council wants the planning commission to be proactive, actively participating in the development.
Correct.
And I think we wanna be.
Yes, sounds like you all want.
And our website still says that you meet a particular day each month,
Scheduled for the second Thursday?
second Thursday each month. And I think, yes, like all committees, you're meant to be open to the public and post an agenda. And, so it would be great if then you gave a report, even if you said, we didn't meet, it was too snowy, or we met and talked about who it is what kind of help we could ask for to do some of these things. Or here's a current goal we're working on, maybe it's food cart code, because we do have a planner working on that, right? Right? Don't we?
A food cart, say it again?
The
Yeah.
food cart.
We just
program,
submitted-
yeah,
we just submitted
yeah,
this
correct.
now.
Yeah, we did.
So, or maybe you're going to look at you're gonna peruse the strategic plan. And you as a team come up with some of these, it's called goals and recommendations in this section as well as, then strategic plan recommendations, and I listed who, and they listed as well, who are the primary responsibility, and, who is, like, they have city, ODOT, Port of Cascade Lodge, and I wrote planning, street planning. So you see, oh yay, because this is, you know, was done to get the input of the whole community. Of course, nothing's perfect. Did it get everybody in the community? No. Does everybody agree? No. But this was done over many months and analyzed by persons outside of our city to show these are the goals of the community. So that's what we're all here for, is the community. And so that's why I think this would be helpful.
Okay.
And when we do goal setting like this, I didn't see anything on our planning related to the planning for the cities. And we're gonna do it again.
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah,
Right.
so I would like to walk away with next steps.
Jordan had your hand up.
I think I lost it. I think back to what Chair Seeger was saying is the planning commission wants the marching orders from council, and I was getting the vibe before this meeting is planning commission didn't really want them or didn't know they were supposed to get them. Like I said, they've been very reactive in the year that I've been here, not proactive, so. I guess, and
It was a money issue.
well, that too, yeah, some of this does take money.
Well, I'm just saying that was
somebody
the reason that
Okay.
it changed to not meeting every month. There's no reason to meet every month if you have nothing to discuss. And so then when there was a land use application, I mean, if there's nothing on the agenda, but when there's a land use application, the planning commission meets. And that was done because of money, cost.
Councilor Farrell.
Some of my questions have already been answered, which is great. There's one that I don't understand yet. I'm sure there's other people in town that don't either. What's the chain of command here? If there's a resident who wants to give input, do they come to council, who then goes to planning? Do they go to planning, who then comes to council? What's the correct way that that's supposed to happen? I mean, I don't know.
Regarding what specific issue?
It could be anything. It could be, okay, like for example, getting sidewalks. And like down Forest Lane, we had somebody that came to council and gave us, input on that. It could be somebody with a complaint about something that they see a business is doing that they don't think is correct in the ordinances. So what, you know,
I don't think there is one answer, it depends on the situation, what the topic is, I mean, if it's about land use, it should start, and if they say it's a land use issue, they go to council, council should redirect them back to the planning commission, because it's the land use.
okay,
If it is a complaint and ordinance violation, it should go to council, who would then direct it towards staff to investigate the complaint. So it's all situational, there isn't one answer.
okay.
Right, and if I could be king for a day, every citizen would know, start with staff.
Yes,
Most of your things can be answered by Kathy, by our new ordinance officer, by the city administrator, by the finance director. Most of those things they can answer. If they can't, then they'll tell them, you know, that's actually a policy conversation. And then you might wanna talk to one of your council members about that, yeah. But if we can just have folks start with staff, that's a
Well, I
good
know that's
spot.
what our council procedures say, that to direct the city administrator. if
Exactly.
people would maybe come to me personally, then I would say, ask the city administrator.
Exactly.
So, but I wasn't really sure how that, I didn't see anything in here that said, if someone comes to one of you, what you're supposed to do, but, it's just a technicality, I thought. Another thing was, the strategic plan that did just get passed, a copy of it does need to go to each planning commissioner for sure. They need to get that in their hands. The meeting, so meeting the second Thursday of each month as a reactionary thing, but I think I'd like to see it happen every month, even if it's just for you all to get together and throw ideas out and forward questions to city council, like what you're thinking. It just, because it's like out of sight, out of mind if you're not meeting. Does that make sense? It doesn't have to be a long meeting. You can just see what's on your mind. Is there anything that anybody wants to give to city administrator or council, kind of thing? I think that's about all I have right now. Yeah.
One benefit from meeting monthly, I think it just helps with communication, helps everybody to be on the same page. I haven't gone through planning training, so I can't say too much. So, because I don't know what planning commissions, how often they meet, what is the standard, what is all of that, so I can't really comment on that too much, so. Because I don't wanna say every month you must meet, but if that's not the standard, or I need some training on it, but at least I think everyone's in agreement to improve communication, improve steps, marching orders, as you put it, or maybe direction, I would say.
I was so frustrated when I got appointed to the planning commission, because we didn't meet for 6 months one time, I think, 6 months. I just was so frustrated. My theory, this is my theory. We're not planning for what's gonna happen in Cascade Locks tomorrow. We're gonna plan for Cascade Locks when maybe we are not even here anymore. Like 10 years down the road. The future. We're planning for Cascade Locks, so it's a livable, viable community 10, 20 years from now.
And you do that through the code, and you do that through what the language says, and you go through this process.
Right.
With respect to meeting every month, the body is designed to be reactionary. They're there as a vetting committee to identify and determine if an application was appropriately applied to the code and vice versa. And then send a recommendation through to the city council if there's an appeal. That is the heart and soul of what this body does, in addition to legislative amendments, which is exactly what's being proposed through the code change. So there's opportunity to do the things that you're talking about, and I think by the nature of the fact that we have this money queued up, it will happen organically, but meeting every month, in my humble opinion, isn't necessarily something that would lead to that, unless the scope of what we're being tasked with is outside of what a traditional planning commissioner is. Perhaps that's part of what you'd like to provide details on.
It might be beneficial, it might be beneficial to start, to help get it going and to get everybody off on the right foot and on the right track. I think it's gonna take a lot of communication. So, Councilmember Baker?
And coming in to be a city councillor and getting it back to read everything that we have, I see the powers and duties of the commission, and I want to hear I think that can be discussed monthly. I want to hear your thoughts on that, and we are all overtasked as volunteers, city council, and I know that as a committee volunteer, and appreciate even a person applying to be on the committee, and we have documents. It matters to me that we follow our documents. It will take weeks, if not months, to change an ordinance. This is what we have now. It was put in place by folks who thought this was important for planning to do, and I like everything in there, and I see a chance to say, oh, number 5, we're gonna send an email to the port, and they're going to provide us with information. Check it out. That's what we're doing for now. At least we've considered that. But, and so that city folks who want to talk to you about a sidewalk or a ADU or a developer who wants to come in and say, oh my God, these codes are horrible, and they can talk to you and you can make recommendation to us. If folks can count on planning commission meeting, then they can come and speak about planning concerns or ideas, or you might find a great knowledgeable volunteer. That is part of my goal, what City Administrator Bennett said, that he didn't know that that this committee wanted to be proactive, and that is what I'm hoping for, because that's what it's also in our documents, and what I see, we need the help. The city council needs your recommendations, and I have a question, Kathy. It is my understanding you can meet and discuss these things as a planning committee without a planner, paid planner there.
That's true.
Yeah, so it shouldn't cost money, right? To have that meeting, and you would know when you want the paid planner, and I'm still also a fan of reviewing contracts and getting new bids. You may find one that,
I think they discussed that.
okay, I didn't know I was not gonna be, sorry.
Trevor, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so. Let's see. Oh. For what it's worth. About, I don't know, I wanna say 4 months into my work on the planning commission. I re-engaged the group to say, look, I came here because I have 3 priorities of planning: housing, and then housing. And I was like, we really have to talk a lot about that, and then several said, well, I wanna see, some downtown improvements, and there were different things that were bubbling. I'm like, well, why don't we make a list of all these? And then, give them a price to get some professional, counsel on what it would do to bring these improvements to fruition. And then have council look at those and either agree or rearrange the priority with proper funding, and then we'll go to work. So that was in motion. It frankly got paused because of
the strategic plan.
the strategic. Okay, all right, okay. I wasn't sure what that was.
Okay.
But now I know.
Okay.
So,
See, this is good information.
yeah, so I would like to return to that, and maybe that will just kind of give you a draft work plan for you guys to look at, to say, okay, we like this planning commission, go to work. Now, the one thing I will say, and I love my fellow neighbor and council member to death, but sometimes we disagree on professional help. I continue to reiterate that as much as we can take on these things like housing or downtown improvement or food carts, at the end of the day, we're amateurs. We need professional experience and guidance when you're gonna really dive into an issue. And that's what we pay our planner for. And so my request to council would be, look, if you guys wanted to have a proactive work plan, and that's to do good work, not just, a bunch of volunteers in a room creating ideas, we need the assistance from a professional planner. And so my request to you is set that money aside. In your budget process, set money
Budget's
aside,
coming up.
set money aside, so we can do that proactive work that sounds you want us to do effectively and with high quality output. I mean, Joanne, but the thing about planning is there is a lot of professional, knowledge and technical knowledge that goes around food carts.
Oh.
I mean, Gresham spent 6 months reviewing their food cart orders before they could get council to adopt one. I don't have that level of food cart knowledge, but they do that based on studying other communities and other ordinances. And again, we don't have time to be a professional. We need professional help to take on these issues. So I just wanted to put that out there as your new planning chair.
Your planning all agree with that statement and getting professionals to come in, and so that's something, Jordan, we can talk about at a city council meeting, and
Yeah.
it sounds like that's what planning's asking for, and then we can bring that up at city council and see me, budget season coming up.
Yeah, whatever
Coming up
your
this
goals,
spring.
we'll decide the budget.
Where would that be in budget? Where?
Planning,
And
part of the general fund.
Right.
Yeah.
Has our budget, did we use our 23 budget for planning or go over it or?
I have to look, I don't remember off the top of my head. Most of it's passed through because we just charge it on to the applicant,
Mhm.
but we have some set aside for city-specific stuff, and I don't remember where we're at.
Which is what we're doing, this stuff, well, actually this, well, yeah, what we're doing now, are you charging this? What we just did,
Correct.
the plan?
Yes.
Yeah, so all of that extra stuff, that's
Well,
ours to pay. Yeah.
No, I agree that, I don't mean that you don't need a planner, you decide when you do. What I meant is you don't need one at every meeting if you're not making planning decisions that would require a planner.
Yeah, I just, I mean, we reviewed the code language regarding food carts tonight. And, you know, several questions came up, and we really kind of need a planner to say, okay, this is how other cities are doing it, this is why. Like, my question was, why do we make it 4 months? What was the basis of that? What was the intent? The original code reads 4 months. Where was it, what's the basis, what's that based on?
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, exactly,
I
so,
couldn't tell you. I asked the same question. I
Right.
don't know.
so planners can give you perspective on details like that.
Correct.
So we are better at making proposals to the fabulous
Right.
council on how it should read.
Right.
Don't we have a planner working on that?
What do you mean?
On the food cart code?
Yeah, that's.
Nice.
Yeah.
But a planner did work on it.
Yeah, but we didn't have it, we got the report, we didn't have
Oh,
a
he didn't
Q and A
have-
with.
His
That was
quoted,
unfortunate.
his quoted scope of work was to not be present at this meeting, but at the public hearing next month.
Oh.
And his directive was a description and add a couple months, which is what he did.
Okay, no, I
A
didn't
couple months.
pay close enough.
Add a couple of months to, from 4 months to 6 months.
Oh, I was like, wait a minute, did we just go to 4 to 6 months on the?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we did.
which is what he did. That's what the planning commission,
He recommended extending it to 6 months.
So still the time limit.
Yes.
well, you have to have a time limit or they're not temporary.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess, yeah, we do need to look at food cart codes in other cities.
I would like to know what the time frame is with regards to working with this grant and comprehensively reviewing everything. What does that look like?
I just got the grant agreement from DLCD yesterday, our city attorney, I sent it to him to look at, I have not heard back yet. Funding will probably come about March, and then the process itself will probably take about a year
Yeah.
to 15 months.
So that feels to me like what you're asking for in terms of involvement. So maybe going through the code between now and March and between now and when we onboard somebody to do that. Is DLCD providing somebody or is that?
No, we're gonna use University of Oregon.
Okay, so then working to identify what in the code you wanna change, what you think you wanna adjust, whether you know what that looks like or not. Find model language if you are interested in something,
Mhm.
but bring it to that advisor and say, these are the sections that we wanna do. Provide advice and counsel and direction on what they're interested in. These are the sections we need to change. This is what we wanna add. We don't have this type of a land use area.
Yeah.
This is what we wanna change. And we can do that work. But that work is the footwork that you then turn over to the expert to then actually put it all together. And that will save us time and money if you wanna take that on, but that's planning work. where
Yeah,
You
so-
have to know what you're doing, and if we don't have someone here that's telling us, well, that doesn't make any sense because cities don't do that, then you don't know if you're on the right track or not.
Right, so, but just to be clear, my understanding is that grant is limited in its scope to downtown, what's it out? Read the grant description.
Downtown revitalization project. So it's got 3 parts to it. One of them is parking, figure out a parking situation. The other part is code development for the entire community code development. So not just downtown,
Oh, not just
not just
downtown.
downtown, the entire community development code.
Okay,
That's what I
The,
thought.
the goal of it is to make it more business friendly, but it's a review of the entire code.
fabulous,
And
okay.
then the third item is wayfinding signage downtown.
Hallelujah.
Yes,
Jordan, is it Amanda Ferguson?
yes.
And she, with University of Oregon, was this planner for Cottage Grove.
Perfect.
So, and she cares about Cascade Locks, and she, is a historic preservation, degree as well. But, so I think we're in good hands, and I know, I don't want you to, it is unfortunate, this happened at city council, when we need legal advice and the attorney's not available, and it pauses everything. But reviewing what you know needs to be changed, like Dave Lips sees things that need to be changed and putting that down, this is obviously a contrary in the ordinance and the code. And so look at this, look at this, look at this. And then I am a big fan of asking for your best choice, like I am not happy with a 6-month food cart. I don't understand that because other cities have long-term food carts. So, so personally, that's not what I would ask for, but, and then you find out from the planner why, you know, maybe our ask is naive or not of planning code. I have found myself very good luck in just calling planners and they answer my question. And there's got to be an organization that you belong to. Is there not one that we can call and ask questions? I spoke at length with one of the planners from Trumpdale when I had questions. So, just to help, you know, in your pre-work before your meeting, I'm not asking you to pretend you're a planner and, you know, but I'm hoping that you can find value in what you're doing when you're not with a planner. That's my request.
The 6-month is kind of new to me because my understanding is that was part of the problem. We didn't want a time limit on it. So now I'm hearing it's what, from 4 to 6 months?
That's what John suggested.
Which I would assume he looked at other people's code, I think we told him that you're gonna see them.
Now, there is a qualifier in there.
Okay.
If you're 3 or more food carts that are all co-located in one spot.
Right.
Then you can, you would go through a different process. And that could be, like you see in Troutdale or Portland, where they're basically permanent food carts. Is that not, am I reading that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And I think
But
that
if you're 1 or more, then you're limited to 6 months.
Stevenson has theirs there
I know.
year round.
Year-
You're not in a cluster.
So with respect to the time frame, and even where it's located with zones, we kicked back on changing anything more than simply adjusting the time frame to what was asked from 4 to 6, simply because if you don't take interest in reviewing the rest of the code and where it fits in and what you're
Right.
potentially changing, you have impacts in areas that you haven't accounted for or vetted.
Right.
And so these may be ideas that are great, but that's something that goes into this process that says, we
Right.
don't want 6 months, we want something totally different, and we want it in these different zones, and so then
Right.
you look at that and you add it comprehensively and go through that review at that time. You can't just willy-nilly change things. That's what we paid the planner to do. He went through and he vetted it and he said, this is what this looks like, this is what the description is, this is what you paid me lots of money to do. It was like 2 things that were striking bold.
And that was council's decision to
That
not
was-
go with the full meal look at stuff
The full
at
meal,
this
yeah.
price. We're doing this at this.
It was a piecemeal fix for that specific thing. So yes, tell us what you want and we can write, right, like that's how you address it going forward.
And, you know, to your point, Councilman Farrell, the rub is, you set up a food cart, you offer there, you know, multiple year long, but you never pay impact fees,
I know.
you know.
Right.
So there becomes a fairness issue, you know? And so that's why you have that broader look on how to manage like utilities, because it becomes this whole thing, you know? And that's, we're doing a Band-Aid thing right now, and then hopefully we'll have more resources like we are, and we can take a better look at it. On y'all's direction, I mean, ultimately, how we spend that $45,000, what we review, council should say, yeah, I want this, and this. With us, with our input, see, we're recommending council do these 10, 7, how many other things.
So you're gonna review it as well?
Yes, ma'am, I hope to.
All right, good.
Parking is a big thing.
Oh, and it's come up even in city council folks, I'm at the Main street, and I can't overemphasize, and I don't know how we're gonna chase it down. Grants, grants, grants. Please know, Bernard, as well, that our strategic plan, one of the major areas is housing, affordable housing. So when you
I
know,
know, I was on the committee.
all right, so that's good because that's something I know. But again, then I say grants, 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 getting developers somehow continuing our connection with the port to say, you know, who are you bringing in? They do in the strategic plan recommendations, talk about working with the Small Business Association, which hopefully is going to get started with connected communities, with Main Street. Because some things can happen with nonprofits, as guided by the city too. You know, we have a lot of buildings downtown that.
We have a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
We have a lot of work to do. I know, what time did you start your meeting today? Because I wanna be respectful of time and not keep you here for.
Six.
Okay.
Oh, wait, 8:30. We started at six.
see, that's
So-
10 yesterday.
I had a wild hair one night. I thought maybe we should charge all the closed businesses downtown a tax.
Well, we'll have to.
Because their doors are shut.
Well, I talked to the Hood River County Commissioner about that. We apparently, this particular person said the only thing we could do is write a dark store code. And that they have to maintain the exterior, they can't have paper in the window, they have to do the landscaping, snow removal. And sometimes that gets so expensive that they end up selling.
Yeah.
But also if we can get revitalization money, I don't know if you know that Oregon Main Street in 2025, buildings can apply for, or Main Street's can apply for up to $200,000 per building for renovation, maybe 300, they're pushing for that, but there's a lot to do, we know. And together, that's why this communication, together, we can reduce your work and you can help us. Like, I didn't know that when Dave saw these things that were matching, I haven't found that yet, right, in that particular area, so I love it. When you find it, you write it down. When we find it, we write it down. And together you make a recommendation, doesn't, yes, we need to give you priority goal setting, you're right. And I don't know when we're gonna do that, put that on the agenda, city council agenda to do goal setting for planning,
Yeah, we'll set a separate work session, yeah,
okay,
probably in February after council meets with tourism,
okay.
have this exact discussion with tourism.
And then I guess we asked them, what do you want from council? I heard you want your marching orders.
Training?
Training, yes.
Please.
Training, that's good.
Rain.
Now, how can I want to personally, encourage all of you to look and see, but there was a planning training last fall, I don't think anybody went to, did they?
Not that I'm aware of.
You mentioned training.
Mhm, we did.
I can find what I'm aware of and pass it along.
Okay,
And Jordan, can you reach out to the port, Jeremiah, and see where they're at with that? If
It's
there's,
on their agenda for next week.
great, perfect. Okay, does planning have any other comments?
I'm delighted you're here.
What's that?
I'm delighted you're here.
We are too, and, like I said, we all wanna do better. So it's not one telling the other what to do, we're just like, hey, communication needs to improve.
Right, and this community is too precious.
Oh, absolutely, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Jordan, do you wanna sum up what we're?
I think the big question, what next steps were, right? It's kind of.
Correct.
Planning, researching, planning, training, I think is the first thing. I will send out the, city strategic plan to everybody, so they have a copy of it. And I think after that, everybody goes through the development code, kind of highlight things they'd like to see change or have been issues, so those are ready to go for when the grant starts to process forward. And then council needs to have their goal setting session and give the commission marching orders.
Right, we've got a list already, we just haven't, we never prioritized it, because we weren't sure how much stuff costs.
Okay.
So, we would like, I mean, I think at our next meeting, let's prioritize that list,
That was-
even without a budget, Kathy, that sounds okay. And then we'll bring that to you guys, to have you, again, either sign off or reshuffle.
Well, it was actually in our last minute,
Right,
the ones that I, the last meeting, the August minute.
oh, right.
We actually had two meetings where you guys talked and discussed, and in the next meeting,
We did prioritize,
well, we did, well, maybe not prioritize, but these are the things that we want.
Right.
that's right.
If we make a list, though, it'll be easier to discuss.
When was that? When's the last time you met?
August.
August. Oh, well, you're due then, okay. Councilor Farrell, you had a question?
Just a comment, yeah, so it would be good to get all the goal setting to us and us okayed or commented back and have all that back and forth done before budget,
Correct.
Right.
Right.
so that we know
Yes.
where we need to.
So
And how much you can spend and not spend, or,
if the commission meets, planning commission meets second Thursday, it's 14th or whatever it is. We'll get that list and then the council can meet second half of February. Have that list and then I can start building the budget from there.
okay. Does that sound,
Can I request a digital copy of the code?
Yes, what,
It's on the website.
Do you have like a Word document or something that's editable? Maybe, maybe not.
all the links are Word documents.
Um,
The one you can-
it's under PDFs.
That's their PDFs.
Yeah, I think I have, I think I do.
Oh, there are PDFs, maybe this one's.
So, and I request, according to our documents, we're working under the current ordinances over the year, if you want to change that, know that, changing ordinances costs money, takes time. And that that the planning will meet monthly and that provide council with a report and in my, it doesn't, we know you have minutes, that's great. In my desire to hear a report, it only can be a paragraph. You can email it to Jordan and read it, like we talked about.
I think that'll be a part of what the goals and the planning and all that. So kind of what council expects or.
Well, it's
their
Word
expectations.
documents.
Yeah.
Part of it.
It's in there.
Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else?
Spring break.
Spring break?
Just this spring.
Oh,
And you guys
Kathy, do you have anything to add or?
anybody online?
Dave? Do you have anything to add?
No, I'm good.
All right, you're good with kind of how we summed it up?
Yeah, I just want there to be consistency in the code from the ordinances to the planning code. I think that would be, I think that'd be great. And that's all I gotta say.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilmember.
Enjoy the sunshine.
Yes, okay, so Todd can catch up by playing the recording, okay, great.
Okay. I make a motion to adjourn.
A second.
I didn't make.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Do we need to do a roll call vote to adjourn? Is everybody in agreement?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Joanna,
Thank you.
for being on so long. Thank you.
Thank you.